Good Sunday morning, everybody. Welcome into Philly AM Sports with Al. I'm Al. He's Mike. Mike, what's going on, brother?
What's going on, Al? It's a beautiful
Well,
Sunday morning here in Philadelphia.
it's a bright, sunny Sunday afternoon, feeling like spring is sprung finally. And as we talk about spring, you're going to have to talk a lot about Philly sports. You know, Flyers look like they're making a push for the playoffs. The Sixers, who cares? The Phillies are making you bash your head against the wall as usual. And we're trying to keep ourselves from bashing our heads against the wall. But today is the day we've talked about for the last couple of weeks. And I'm happy to talk to for the first time in a while. We worked with him a lot when we were both together at Edge of Philly Sports. David Neese, I've been following him for a while, even before EOP. Philly Sports Network. You can follow him at David Neese PHL on Twitter, and I would tell you to do so because the guy covers things correctly. That's what I love about him. I don't go for the most, all the clicks and all this stuff, and they're going to try to get you the big fancy names that you want to hear and all that great stuff. He's going to tell you the real deal. He's going to break down things for you that you didn't even know existed, and he'd probably be right more often than you believe. So that's why I'm saying that. So I'm going to bring him in right away. Here he is. Dave, what is going on, brother?
Good morning, guys. Mike, Al, pleasure to be with you, and you are far too kind in that introduction. But thank
Dave,
you anyway.
I told you that a long time ago, man. I've been following you for a while. Me and Mike like the real, right? We're guys who want to hear the real story. I don't care about the fluff. I don't care about who everybody wants, when there's probably no chance of getting that person, it's shooting for the stars. You're going to tell me what we're going to do, and we're going to get into it. We're going to talk a lot of draft today. So, Mike, why don't you start off with your first question today?
My first question is it offense or defensive line? Do you think that the Birds are going to go? I think this is the year they finally go after Lane Johnson's replacement. And I think they're going to go offensive line. I would love to see him get the kid from Penn State, the guard. He's mean, he's nasty, and he would fit in just perfect with this offensive line that we have here in Philadelphia.
Yeah, I agree with you completely on that. For like 5 years, fans every draft cycle would say this is a year where we need Lane's backup, and every year I'd always push back. They're not going to take somebody in the first round who's going to sit for 3 years. They're not going to take somebody in the first round who's going to sit for 2 years. Because, other positions, you get a D tackle, they rotate. Offensive tackles, they're just sitting. Unless somebody gets hurt, they're never coming in the game. Or you can try to push them inside for a year, but that's really not how the, Eagles tried to operate unless they were just, developing a swing tackle. So I agree with you. I think it is the year they take an offensive tackle. What muddies the situation a little bit this year is that there's no Stoutland. So we're trying to evaluate what type of lineman Sean Mannion, is going to desire in this new offense. And it seems like people who are athletic, especially the guards, Philadelphia is used to seeing big maulers like Mekhi Becton and Dickerson at guard. And I think you hit the nail on the head with Vega from Penn State. He is the most mobile guard probably in this draft. He is, without question, the meanest, the most physical. He is definitely a fit for the Eagles. I think he's probably the only guard that I can remember. I've even suggested them draft in the first round in 5 years. He's that good. So, yeah, I think that's exactly right. And there's a handful of tackles. And earlier in the cycle, I was in on a few more than I probably am now, because I think I was so indoctrinated by what Stoutland's been able to do over the years. And then I have to reset my brain and remember that might not be the case now. They might not be trying to develop like, a Jordan Mailata type of guy. Like, I'll butcher some names here because I watch all 22 and not as many live games. So some of these last names I will mess up. But like a tackle from Arizona State, Max Hinekor, love him. I think he has all of the traits that could, translate to the Philadelphia Eagles very well. But the question mark is, how do they develop that now? So I have about 4 offensive tackles who I kind of identified as like what I've been calling this offseason Philly fits. It's just something I tried to focus on instead of doing the whole draft like I used to in the past. If I don't think they're a fit, I've kind of walked away from them. So I haven't studied them as much as I used to. because I just wanted to be laser focused on Eagles picks. But I don't know who you guys like at tackle, but I 100% agree with you as far as that guard in Vega from Penn State.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I mean, I think the big names I've seen a lot being mocked and knowing that, Howie has definitely, because, listen, back before Howie became what we know Howie to be today, I was really annoyed with Howie with his drafting. As a lot of people were, great with the numbers, great with the late round picks or undrafted free agents along those ways. He always seemed to hit gold with them, but he just first couple 2-3 rounds, he always seemed to struggle trying to be the smartest man in the room. Then he finally said, you know what, there's some colleges out there who are NFL ready. Maybe I should just peek in there and start going there. Because I remember when the Devontae Smith pick came in, I was like, I'm glad to see he's doing it. He's picking the best guy available from one of the best schools that are college ready, and he was a Heisman winning guy. What that's what he should have been doing this whole time, instead of people just praising him simply. But then he's continued with it, and I guess like the big one I've seen, and I don't know if he's on your board if you can even get to him, but Caden Proctor, Alabama. I mean, that's the one I've seen a lot mocked to him. Is he on your board? Is that a possibility is he even a fit for the Eagles in Dave's eyes?
I mean, I've seen him on a lot of boards. And again, I think this is where I struggle with the loss of Stoutland. Because if this was last year, yeah, he would have been on my board. He's a physically imposing tackle with rare size, power, movement for a player. His, size, his evaluation comes down to projection over consistency. And I don't know, again, like I mentioned with, the mobility and the type of players that they're looking for. I don't know if he is complete fit with the Eagles. He fits the mold from a trait standpoint, big, athletic, moldable, but he requires patience and development. And I don't know if that's the type of player that they're going to have going forward. So I don't have him on my board, but would I be surprised if the Eagles did? No, but I just don't see him as a fit with the current offensive structure that they're moving towards. But the last 13 years with Stoutland, absolutely. And just to touch on what you said about how we hitting on those early round picks, since that moment you mentioned with the whole Devontae Smith switch, I believe in the first day 1 and day 2 picks, talking rounds 1 through 3, they have hit on 14 of those 15 picks who turned into starters. The only one who didn't was Sidney Brown. Not a knock on him. They never really developed him as a starter. That just didn't come to fruition in that way. But that's how successful he's been, which is an insane hit rate, 14 out of 15 of your first, day 1 and day 2 picks turning into starters. It's just, it's almost impressive for even Howie at this point, because I don't think it's sustainable. But if you can hit on those first 2 rounds, it doesn't really matter what you're hitting on the rest of the draft, because you're just constantly churning starters and everybody else just becomes into a backup role.
No, absolutely. And Mike, before you go into your next question, and I know you said the name a few times, and Mike's like, oh, don't bring his name up. I can see Mike in his eyes. Don't say Jeff Stoutland to Al. Don't say Jeff Stoutland to Al, because he knows that whole Jeff Stoutland situation has enraged me. But since you brought it up, I mean, I listen, was it Cooper versus Chris Cooper versus Stoutland? It's right now, it's, completely one level to the other. Is that going to be the difference in your eyes between a successful Eagles season? I know Mike's going to push back on me on this one, but is that going to be the difference in a successful season with Chris Cooper, with this O-line, especially with it aging and guys who've only worked with Jeff for so many years?
I think it's going to be the thing that's under the microscope the most, because it's the biggest loss from the fans and the media standpoint. You basically let a Hall of Fame offensive line coach walk away, and probably not in the way many of us expected him to be let go. Like I even think he was a little taken, back by this, and I don't believe that he liked the way he was probably handled in some of those situations. So yeah, I do think that will probably be under the microscope the most, but I don't think it was anything to do with his offensive line developing or anything like that. Like a lot of people will point to the last few picks, like Cam Williams and Drew Kendall and whoever else they had, Miles Hinton. None of them really developed well. A lot of them were hurt too. So I don't think that's a knock on Stout. I think what happened is they weren't able to get the people in the building who they wanted to get in for the offensive coordinator job if he was going to be the running game coordinator. And I don't think he really wanted to lose his duties and his powers. He's been in pretty much absolution here since Chip Kelly, and he didn't want to lose power, and they wanted to move in a different direction. And people will say, well, he's the best OT coach or OL coach in football. I mean, he could adjust. That's not really what he wants to do. And a 60-some-year-old man has been teaching it a certain way. You're going to ask him to change everything he's ever done that's made him a Hall of Fame coach? That doesn't make a lot of sense.
And he's been through how many coaching regimes and all that stuff.
He outlasted everybody. Yeah.
Yeah, like I really think he was just like, listen, I don't bash Sirianni as much as some people will. I mean, I know. We already had the one comment from Mike. He is our guy who he'll tell you he's not a Sirianni fan at all. But just the way it was all handled and went down, it just seemed wrong for the way, like you said, the way it should have ended. Mike, I'm sorry, cut on you. It's all yours. You're the next one, buddy.
Miles Hinton, he is my guy going forward with the Eagles. I think he can replace Lane Johnson. I think he has the tools to replace Lane Johnson. But like you said, Dave, a year ago, he hurt his back, and that really kind of sidelined him. I like Kendall, too. I think Kendall's got a chance, too, having a full and healthy offseason and training camp. I mean, you got to remember, too, Hinton, when he came into the league, he's coming off of a national championship, so he really didn't have much, kind of time. He was in the very last game of the year, and then getting ready for the draft. So I think the Eagles got two really good ones there. Just real quick, man, this was my last mock that I did, and I like this kid from Notre Dame, Billy Schlereth, the inside back. I think he's the offensive lineman right there. That was the last one that I did. I did it with trades. I'll send it over to you. You can take a look at it. I've been running mocks like the last couple of weeks. I haven't done one in probably about 2 weeks, but this is when Sadiq was a short pinpoint for the Eagles. That has now changed because I think of his stock rising as well as some other people kind of falling back.
Yeah, I've never I love Sadiq as a player. I've never thought that he would probably land on the Eagles just because Oregon plays like that spread offense, and so many of his targets are kind of, constructed for him to succeed in that. They're kind of fed to him. So I just thought it was a little bit of a different style of offense, and the Eagles will probably play than trying to force targets to a tight end over and over. And again, the offensive style is just a little bit different. That type of play with that spread offense doesn't really play too well in the NFL like it does in college. And I'm definitely not trying to say the guy's last name who you had on your board there, Billy Schroff, I think might be his name from Notre Dame. He's a very no-nonsense physical presence in the interior. I have him more like a guard, wired to play like one. He's strong at the point of attack. He's good in movement in the run game, and I definitely could see him being someone that they're interested in. As far as the other two Eagles you touched on, like in addition to Cameron Williams, who I mentioned, Hinton and Kendall, during training camp, I just didn't see them. They were hurt. You didn't see them at practice. So it's hard to know where they're at. I mean, Hinton has the bloodlines. He's got, proto-size, arms, the kind of natural power that a lot of teams covet at tackle. And Kendall, too, just a technician, wins with intelligence and leverage and consistency and speed. Kind of reminds you of like the Kendall Juergens pipeline there a little bit, So I like both of them as well. But, I don't want to sound like a broken record here, but with the new OL coach and the new offensive coordinator and the new offensive philosophy, it's very hard to identify what kind of guys they're going to have. On April 23rd, 4th, and 5th, we're going to get a quick look into what they think. But, I like both of those guys as well. I think Kendall maybe has a little more of the style of play that they're looking for moving forward.
Absolutely. And I'm going to kind of two-part question here. Number one is, do you think Howie or them, do they kind of go against the grain and not look at the trenches, either O-line or D-line? Or do you think they go best man available? Like, doesn't matter what position they're looking at, because they do have needs to fill all over the place especially with they need to get younger and cheaper, I guess, because Carter's contract is looming, and if they can do that, because his is probably going to be some groundbreaking historical type contract, and with the signing, I really thought it would be either him or Jordan Davis. I didn't know both would be a possibility, but hey, it's Howie and it's what he does. But do you think he stays trench warfare as typical, or do you think he goes best man available?
Yeah, I mean, last season, Howie went off script, kind of, right? He went linebacker round 1, safety round 2, first 2 picks. I would expect to see a return to the franchise's focus on trenches again. That's where a lot of the value is for the Eagles, and they have a lot of second contracts coming up, like you mentioned. And I wouldn't believe any of the Jalen Carter trade hype. I mean, I knew it was coming because I heard the rumors. I posted like the day before, watch out, Eagles fans, because you're about to hear something that you're not going to like too much. Because you could hear the rumblings, kind of like the AJ Brown stuff. You start hearing things, and that exploded to a whole nother level. But you hear things coming, and I think Howie definitely does want Davis and Carter together for that middle, and I think that's why you'll see a focus on some of the transition on the offensive side of the ball, and probably maybe a D tackle late, like in the mold of Moro Ajomo. Because that's another guy who's coming up for a contract already. It's mind-blowing how quick this happens, but you see what kind of money defensive tackles are getting on the open market, and he can't pay everybody. So I do think you'll see that go back to the trenches, and also like guard, like Mike mentioned earlier, they're getting paid too. Top tier guards are getting almost OT money out there now. So you got to have that pipeline coming through the draft, or your team just becomes unsustainable really quick financially.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's the downfall, or the good and the bad, the good and the ugly, or whatever you want to call it, of having success with a third round pick or a fourth round pick, because it does sneak up on you a lot faster. You're not getting 4 or 5 years here; you're getting 2-3 years, and you got to make a decision, and you got to make it quick on a guy who has that quick and early success.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Howie's done that over and over again. I mean, Milton Williams was a third round pick who gets $100 million, 4 years down the road. And Ajomo might not be far behind. I mean, I'd be surprised if he, doesn't find a suitor, especially if he comes anywhere close to having the type of season he did last year again this season.
Yeah. This is why, like, for me, honestly, I think at 54 for the Birds, they got to go after Lee Hunter, the defensive tackle out of Texas Tech. I feel like if they can go and get him, like, you're going to pair him up now with Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and Ajomo just for this season. Oh my God. Like, you want to talk about your pocket collapsing? To me, I've been watching him, Dave, and I think he had a great combine. Like, now they're talking about, like, he may be like towards the top part of round 2, the way his stock kind of went up. They had him like really kind of around where the Eagles were picking going into this draft. But watching him, you may have to see the Eagles kind of maneuver, I think, a little bit. But I would love to see them go after a guy like him right there at 54.
Yeah, he's on my Eagles board as well. And I have 12 to 14 guys per tier, like round, I guess. And he's one of the ones in the second round for me. He's just a thick, sturdy build. He eats space. He holds up well against the double teams. He collapses the pocket when his pad level's right. Just a high-end pass rush threat at this stage as well, who will probably only get better. Philly always, values those rotational defensive linemen who can anchor against the run and keep the front fresh, by rotating those legs. That's how they've been so successful in the trenches. And he kind of fits that mold as an early down contributor who can develop more down the road like Ajomo did. So, yeah, it's a little bit of an early dart throw there, but he has a lot more traits coming into it than a lot of the other guys who they try to get in later rounds.
Yeah, absolutely. And my other question was going to be, and Joe I put on the screen there, and Nooms also talks about Mannion and talks about the Wicks trade. And of course, when you trade for a wide receiver, you can't not put AJ Brown's name in front of it. I know you've been pretty staunch on that all this means nothing about AJ Brown. With that trade, does anything of that change for you? Is AJ Brown an Eagle come post June 1st, I guess, at this rate?
I mean, I obviously don't know with any certainty there, and anybody who's posting that they think they know what Howie's going to do is full of crap. I mean, they are like Fort Knox in there. Any information that ever comes out from the Eagles side is more than likely deliberate, because they just don't have leaks like that. Now, players can say whatever they want, to people on the side, but I can only go by what he's said. I have straight asked him 2 or 3 times, and he said he wants to be in Philadelphia. He said he likes Philadelphia. He enrolled his children in school in Philadelphia. He wants to be part of the community. When we were asking him about that, Devontae Smith's locker is right to his left. If you're looking at him, he chimes in. You may have seen the clip. He's like, why would he want to leave? Like, why do you guys keep asking this? So they're really close. Off the field, like a lot of people think AJ is like a team cancer. He is the opposite of that. He is a team captain. He is one of the most likable people in that locker room. The team gravitates towards him. Him and Devontae Smith are very close. I mean, they took their holiday Christmas pictures together. I mean, there is not a like divide in that locker room circa 2004 with like McNabb and Terrell Owens. That's not like this. So I don't see the divide like that. All that being said, if Howie's offered a 2027 first-round pick on June 2nd, yeah, he could go. And what these signings to me say is that they're putting themselves in position that if something does happen like that, that they can move forward. Because it was a vast hole there if they moved on, a month ago. Look at all the wide receivers they've thrown in here. Is Wicks A.J. Brown? No. Hollywood is speed. He's a 3-4 guy. Who was the other one they just signed? I can't remember. Maybe from Texas. I can't remember.
Devontae Wicks.
Who was it?
Devontae
there's somebody else before that. I can't remember. There's 3 guys.
Elijah Moore.
Yeah, Elijah. AJ's like one of his best friends. So, but as far as Wicks go, he's a guy I know really well because I covered UVA and he went there for a while. So I know him really well. He has an uncanny ability to create space and separation. He has decent speed. His attention to detail and tempo is kind of what gives him his advantage. And he can press vertically some, but everything I'm saying is not A.J. Brown. Physicality just can dominate you one-on-one. Wicks checks off a lot of boxes, and he is physical, and he is engaged, but all of those skills won't matter if you don't catch the ball on a regular basis, and the Eagles will not tolerate if he doesn't progress to doing that. So securing the ball will determine how much upside he ends up having with the Eagles and how they utilize him. Could he be a number 2 receiver and they move Devontae at 1? Absolutely. Would I expect it? Probably not.
And right here on this quote, Rob, stop reading wherever you're reading. Read Dave. Go to the Philly Sports Network. Read Dave, because wherever you're reading this whole quarterback, I'm not saying they won't draft a quarterback. It's not going to be in the first round. No. It probably won't be in the second round. No. And if they do, it's because they might get a value for their backup quarterback right now. It's Tanner McKee. So it's not because putting pressure on Jalen and all that stuff. But you mentioned about development and all that stuff. And there's a question here that actually was one I was going to go about. In your eyes, is there anybody who is still on the team that in this last draft wasn't as, it's really hard because the last couple drafts before, he wasn't just hitting on guys. He was having like almost instant success. Quignon and Coop, back to back 1 and 2, and you have those guys, really walk you right to a Super Bowl. So like that means it's high now. The bar is high between injuries and development. Somebody asked the question. We had the Vanilla Gorilla as an option. Can he make a comeback? And do you see any of these guys like Campbell or somebody having a really big 2026 season?
Campbell, I think, is going to be based on his ability to recover from that injury. The same shoulder, the same issue that he's having now, and he can't participate probably in some of the spring activities, is why he fell in the draft. that there were concerns that that issue could be long term. And I think a lot of what he'll be able to do moving forward is probably predicated on that. I think you saw, at the beginning of last season, he can play in the NFL. He was one of the best players on the defense for a while. Then N'Kobe comes back and, they kind of changed the philosophy and the way the position was being played, and he shuts down the run and, gets to the passer. So Campbell kind of got lost there, and they kind of tried to teach him how to be an edge, essentially. And he's probably gone home with a lot of that same paperwork. So I think he has all of the physical traits to succeed and be successful with the Eagles, but he's definitely going to have to get healthy. And, whatever the, phrase has been, I mean, he's going to be on the team, but don't make the club from the tub kind of speak, he's got to get healthy. And there's nobody who values health and being able to get play on the field than Vic Fangio. You saw that all over and over. If they can't get reps, they're not going to be on that field. As far as who was it that you asked about? The defensive tackle, Ty Robinson?
Ty Robinson, yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't expect a big ascension there. He was a player to me that was a little out of character for the Eagles when they took him. He was kind of an older prospect. He may have been 24 years old. When you have your breakout at 24, 25 years old, beating up players who are 20 that are 21, just not as physically imposing as you at that point, I'm always a little suspect of those kinds of prospects. There's a couple in the draft this year as well that are like that. Messador, for example, the edge. A lot of people, projecting him that he could be an Eagles fit. I would be a little suspect of that because, again, just when a guy has his best year at 25 years old, that's a little suspect to me. And a lot of the other players who are available that are younger is more in the Eagles' DNA as far as draft goes. They try to get these 20, 21-year-old guys who have a much higher ceiling. They're not so worried about a high floor, but they're definitely shooting for the traits and a high ceiling. And some of those older players just don't have that.
Yeah, and somebody brought up something here too I wanted to bring up. With Moro Ojomo, like we're talking about, there's guys out there who are going to be needing to get contracts, and he's not going to be able to pay all of them because they're going to require. I'm in the camp that, and this actually goes back before we signed Jordan Davis. Me and Mike talked about this a little bit. Not Mike, but I've gotten a lot of flack from people, kind of pushback when I mentioned it. I said, is it a terrible thing that if you have a guy like, say, Jordan Davis, that you had to sign him or Carter, maybe you couldn't do both, that you had a guy who gave you success, who brought you a Super Bowl, for lack of better words, and then you traded him when his value was high and got a lot of picks for him or another good young player? Is that such a terrible thing that people look past, or is it just me?
I think it would depend on the positional value, especially in Howie's eyes. You're talking defensive tackle, which is probably in the top 3 picks that the Eagles value there. It's like quarterback, OT, DT, and then wide receiver, probably their little positional tier. Yeah, I would be surprised if you saw that. If you're talking about a player like Ojomo, that wouldn't be as surprising. If you're talking top tier guys, the Eagles have identified as like core players who are Jalen Carter, who is Jordan Davis, who Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean. If you're, one of those 4 core guys, no, they're not going anywhere. Some of the others, I think, yeah, fair game. They're going to have to make a choice too between probably Nolan Smith Jr. and Jalen Hunt as well. Which one they want to roll with longer term. So if you're talking, I hate saying second tier because it has like a negative context to it, but yeah, just say they're core guys. Like, we went through the era of the core guys, like the core 4 that they called Brandon Graham and Kelsey and Lane, and they're trying to build that again to keep your team with. And I think the 4 I mentioned, Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, Quinyon, and Coop, I think are probably the 4 right now that I would deem completely untouchable. Everybody else, your theory probably holds true on the defensive side of the ball.
Now, I'm going to talk a little later rounds with you, Dave. I see some value in certain guys. I'm just going to give you a couple of them. I just want to hear your feedback on this. One is Brian Parker, the offensive tackle from Duke. I like him, kind of like mid-ish rounds. And I also like Drew Shelton, offensive tackle from Penn State. And my last one is Max Llewellyn, the edge rusher from Iowa. Give me your thoughts on those three.
All right, the one who I probably have watched the least out of that group is Max from Iowa, but Parker from Duke, long athletic tackle, brings intriguing developmental upside of the position, which is something I agree with you. I think the Eagles would like. He moves well for a size, which is something that's going to be required in this new offense. He has that foot quickness to mirror and pass protection, and he has a lot of range and space, which is just something the Eagles ask of their tackles, and probably more so moving forward. He flashed strong hands, ability to latch. I think they rely, like I mentioned earlier, they rely on traits first, refinement later. They've been, so well at developing that. Again, the wild card is, will they still be able to continue that? But I think they will. I mean, there's a lot of people that's been in that building that's learned under, all of this, including Lane, who will have a big voice in that room and, helping his successor like Kelsey did with Cam Jurgens. So I think you'll see some of that. Drew Shelton, another athletic, high-cut tackle, movement skills. The Eagles covet that on the edge, light on his feet. Again, that ability to mirror speed rushers, comfortable in space. I like him a lot. I think the upside is clear with him too. And you're right, he's probably a 4th round, 5th round guy. He's moldable, traits based, just perfect fit for that developmental pipeline that the Eagles like to do.
Okay, and the reason I brought up Max Llewellyn was I actually have him. I have him, and I'm looking at a couple of the other edge. I have him on a couple of my drafts. His name kept popping up with the Birds in later rounds, like probably from like picks like 215 on. His name kept coming up, no matter where I moved, like on the board. Like if I did trades, if I didn't do trades, him, Lorenzo Styles Jr., and the 3 names I got really for like back end of the draft were Llewellyn, Styles Jr., and then Fadamo, the offensive tackle from Louisville.
Right. Yeah, Max is a great choice. I just haven't watched him very much, but I mean, he's a very high effort, power based edge rusher who wins with strength and leverage, and he's got that nonstop motor. So again, all those traits kind of hit. His game is built on toughness. That translates well in a rotational role. And like you said, he probably could be, chosen for a day 3 range pick. He's the type of prospect I think teams value more than the public do. So you never can be surprised where somebody like him goes in the draft. I mean, he's not going to be like 1st, 2nd round kind of guy, but yeah, I could see him. The other guys you mentioned are kind of classic 5th and 6th round Philly dart throws there. A lot of teams use the end of the draft to try to just fill roster spots, with carving out little roles. Howie's mentioned over and over again, that's not what he's doing down there. He's still throwing darts for who he believes can be a starter. And I think that's why you've seen so much success with like the Ajomo and all, because he's not wasting a pick on somebody just to have him be, the 4th OT in a room there, or defensive tackle or, the 4th cornerback. He's looking for guys who have traits who can be starters that they can develop at every level of this draft. And I think that's why they've been so successful with this.
Good, Mike. All right. The reason, another thing I'm going to bring up is the tight end. Goddard on his last year. I kind of got the Eagles getting a little bit of a steal at 114. I took them getting Eli Stowers from Vanderbilt. I really, really like his game. But who are some of the other notable tight ends other than Kenyon Sadiq? Believe it or not, if you looked at this mock that I just threw up there, I had Sadiq 1 and then Stowers at 3. So I had the Eagles taking 2 tight ends within the first 3 picks. But I like Eli Stowers. I think he could be somebody that could possibly be a good number 2.
Yeah. Stowers is one of the more intriguing tight end projections in this class because his background and athletic profile. really smart guy, natural ball skills, body control, understands how to get space as a receiver. Some of his skill sets are a little redundant to that of Goddard, and even the fans are going to hate this, Grant Calcaterra, who his name's turned bad in Philadelphia because he wasn't an effective blocker, but he's got good hands, and he wasn't drafted to be a blocker. How he ended up doing that was kind of more, I think, unfair to him. It's something that just wasn't something he did in college, wasn't part of his skill set. But Stowers, I think he probably goes in round 2. And it'll be interesting if the Eagles do something like that, because it could probably mean that it was likely the end of Dallas Goedert moving forward. And I don't know if that's the path they want to take. You've seen Goddard come down to the wire in back-to-back years on these one-year deals. And the reasons that's transpired the way it has, because he's been willing to take less money to stay on the team. He wants to finish as a Philadelphia Eagle. That matters to him. I think it kind of matters to the franchise too. So the tight ends that I had Oscar Delp, from Georgia, who I think is a pro-style tight end. He does all the little things right. He's assignment sound, technically refined as a blocker, functional as an inline blocker. And I think he was very underutilized in Georgia. So if you look at the back of a football card, his stats aren't going to pop to you because he just hasn't played that much. He wasn't, put in those positions, but he raises the floor immediately, and he's a guy who can develop well. Another guy I personally like that mock drafts have him kind of later, probably round 180 or something, and again, I'll probably mess his last name up, is Tanner Koziel out of Houston. He's a complete tight end prospect whose game just translates to the next level. He brings a massive catch radius, reliable hands, strong. He'd be an immediate end zone threat. His ability to track the ball effortlessly just makes him a consistent threat in contested catches. He's a true 50-50 ball winner. And he just shows a natural feel for the position. I really like him. And let me pull up my board real quick. I know I'm missing somebody here at the tight end position who I like. Oscar Delp, Sam Roush out of Stanford. Another guy who I think is, some people use the comp from Zach Ertz because he's number 86 from Stanford. And the Eagles have done pretty well doing that in the past. But he's another guy who could come in and block right away. He also has good hands. So I like both of them a lot. And another guy whose name I probably shouldn't even attempt, but I'll try it anyway, Nate Borkacher, I think, is another guy who they've even brought him in on a 30 visit. So I think they're high on him as well. So I'm looking at guys who can block or bring a special trait to the position, like Tanner, just his size and massive arms. But Eli Stowers is the most Dallas Goddard kind of guy, I guess, if they're going to look to move on. And that's about where they picked him. I think he was picked 50, 52, whatever. He was right in that range. And that's probably where Stowers will have to go as well if they want to upgrade to him.
It's funny. This NFL draft with some of these names started to sound like an NHL draft.
Yeah.
But
yeah.
But real quick, I told you, like my last question for you on the day. We talked about this real quick when we went on air, and not much about the draft, but the news was circling around about the Diana Rossini and the Vrabel situation and all that stuff. And some people are like, it's not a big deal, whatever. It's between them and their husband and wife and all that stuff. As a guy who's been reporting on sports for a while, and you see people like that who have gotten big names, who have insider information and all that stuff. And a lot of the insider information we've been hearing about A.J. Brown to the Patriots came from this exact source. What does it mean to you, to a guy like you, when you hear this kind of stuff? Is it a slap in the face? Is it, I don't care, let them do their thing, it's not going to stop them one way or the other? Like, what is your thoughts on the situation?
I mean, for me personally, I don't care, but I do think that it is an issue between, their families or whatever, if it is an issue at all. I have no idea, that would be their business. As far as Diana, like, I've seen her at games. I've seen her in the locker room, and throughout the season, when she would post a tweet or anything in regards to AJ Brown, and people would just crap all over it or anything she says about the Eagles. The fan base can get very defensive very quickly, whatever she was saying.
No.
I can only go by what I see. I have no insider information with her. I don't know her. I've seen her in passing, say hello, but I do pay attention who people talk to in locker rooms and who they are speaking to in the press room and this and that. And I've always just said when somebody asks me, I tend to believe whatever she's going to put out there. Like, she has a lot of contacts. It's true. Players do gravitate towards her. Coaches do gravitate towards her. And do I feel slighted because of any of that? I don't. She's a national, person working for the Athletics. She's been at ESPN. She covers the NFL as a whole. So, yeah. Does that mean everything she says is correct? No, because I hear things that I've been told by people before that are 100% untrue. Yeah, so you never know what somebody's telling you. And
just because you're a national reporter doesn't mean you're going to be telling the truth. You're going to listen. They need to stay in the spotlight as much as anybody else does. I get that.
Yeah, yeah, and I don't ever post anything like that because I'm not Diana Rossini. I post something crazy like that, my reputation's shot in a blink. I'm never taking that type of risk. But they got to where they are by hard work, and I know she's going through a rough time and could be deserved or undeserved. I really have no idea. I don't know anything about that whatsoever. But
excuse me, guys.
Nope, sorry.
But yeah, and the way I look at it, it's none of my business. But when people act like she doesn't have contacts or she doesn't know what she's talking about, I would tend to believe that anything she ever says, she's probably been told. Now, whether or not you should vet that more before you put it out, every reporter has to make their own decision on that. I would never take a swing for the fences like that because my reputation wouldn't handle it if I was wrong.
Sure. Well, I think the problem is her vetting situation, at least in the AJ Brown to Mike Vrabel it really.
It's a bad look.
I think the worst part about it is the last news that she tweeted out or talked about was that she was the one who said that Vrabel and AJ are still texting back and forth with each other. And then, so I guess it's easy when you can roll over and look on his phone when he's just sitting right next to you. It makes it easier for you to answer that question. But yeah, like I said, I personally think I look at it. I'm like, typically when it comes to personal stuff, I can care less about their personal lives. It's not mine. Whatever, there's a lot of things about people that we've grown up watching, listening to, players, reporters. It doesn't matter. I'm sure there's stuff behind the scenes I just don't want to know about. I'm happy not knowing about.
Yeah.
I just think in this situation, I don't like from people like you who I know who do a ton of work. Like, I know you brought up your board. And guys, you see his name right here, his Twitter handle, David Neese PHL right there. If you're not following him, get there and start following him. Because like I said, I'm not just saying this because I knew Dave just from working with him. So I can tell you, I'm not just saying this because, he's on my show today. Follow him because his draft board is the greatest rabbit hole to fall down. I remember I looked at your draft. You put up one of your boards. You're doing a big mock draft right now on your Twitter with a bunch of other guys. And I looked at your board, and 3 hours later, it's 2 a.m. And I'm like, because I'm clicking in stuff, guys I didn't know much about. And I'm like, all right. And I'm not mad about this at all. So if you have not, start following him. Mike, do you have anything followed up before we let him go?
No, Dave, thank you once again. Hopefully, maybe I can get you on during the college football year. I'll be looking forward. I'll reach out to you.
Yeah, let's do it. I follow about 6 teams that I follow for draft purposes that I'm assigned to. So if it's any one of those teams, yeah, let's do it. I'd be happy to speak on those. As you notice, a lot of the guys who I talk about are kind of more East Coast based and stuff because I'm never just going to put out content that I've been following Cal and all these other teams out west because I don't. So, most of the guys who I'm intimate with are because they're, on this side. That's the ones I'm going to know more. They're the ones who I've actually been to games and seen and talked with. So I stay in my lane for the most part.
Well, was it week 2, right? Penn State Temple right here in Philly at the Link. So
absolutely,
I'm actually thinking about going. I'm probably going to be in attendance for that one. So
Sounds great. Yeah, if I come up there, I'd like to meet you out there. Yeah, that'd be wonderful.
You got it, bro.
Dave, as always, I thank you for your time. I know it's Sunday morning, not easy to get up for. Sure, the family's like, what are you talking about? We got stuff to do. But we appreciate you, man. And like I said, if you're not following Dave, please go do so. Dave, have a great rest of your day, buddy.
You as well, man. Thank you both. I really enjoyed it. Take care.
Thanks,
all right,
Dave.
Thanks, bud. David Neese, like I said, follow him at David Neese at PHL. Great guy, as you guys can see, and he knows his stuff. He's not going to talk about stuff that he doesn't know about, or at least he's not going to talk about in the sense that he acts like an expert, because we've seen that through the years with guys who think they're experts just because they watched a bunch of YouTube videos or Googled things, whatever. But Dave's one of the great guys. But first part, Nooms, you know how hard it is to conduct an interview with this. If you want to go
comment of the day right here.
Comment of the day. Rossini, mid-level reporter, mid-level face, probably an absent gag reflex. I'm trying to let Dave talk and not crack up laughing. Mike had to walk away for a second after posting. So Nooms, you're gonna get the comment of the day on that one.
Yeah, Nooms made coffee come out my nose. That's why you saw me had to get up.
Yeah,
I saw that pop up, and I was literally in mid swig of my coffee, and I was like, "Oh, that's great."
All right, guys. So we have to talk about the Flyers here. We're gonna move on to the Flyers situation.
I ain't hear no fat lady.
Apparently, the Flyers did not either. That I mentioned you, Mike has been doing a yeoman's job along with Matty B, covering the Flyers this whole season. On top of the fact, the last few weeks between that and the Phillies going on simultaneously. They lost that game to Detroit, which I thought was the most winnable game they had going for the rest of the season, and not in a great fashion. I mean, not that a one goal loss or a 10-goal loss is any better than the next, but a loss is a loss. Kind of took the wind out of the sails. But then last night, Mike, 7-1. Everybody, you get a goal. It was like Oprah Winfrey. You get a goal. You get a goal. And then the big name Porter Martone, man. Like, what can you say about this 19-year-old that people haven't said yet?
Yeah, he got the party started. Last night. But I'll tell you what, the prettiest goal last night had to come from Sean Couturier. And he almost did it again to get a hat trick. He went right from his forehand to his backhand and just elevated it and got it right underneath the crossbar there. And I'll tell you what, they played last night like a team that needed a response. Like, let me ask you a question now. If they would have been out there and got rolled 7-1, right, to Winnipeg, we'd have been like, well, we saw this coming. You know what I mean? They actually responded. So to me, that shows growth.
And that was kind of a I don't know, a problem or a question mark with the Flyers about response, because especially even in the beginning of this season, a lot more last year, but even in the beginning of this season, pretty much leading up to the Olympic break, the team wouldn't respond well. They would come and they would have a big win, and then you knew the loss was coming, or they would have a couple of losses and then I mean, their January was lackluster at best. Let's be honest, call for what it's worth. And over the last few years, the Flyers have kind of either come out like gangbusters and then fizzled out at the end, or came out limping, would really put a show on towards the end of the season, and then kind of crap the bed in any playoff scenario. And in this case, they haven't really done that. And you see a team, I don't know if we want to say they found themselves, but I kind of feel like they found themselves a little bit. Like, I'm not saying, hey, Stanley Cup, here we come, all that kind of stuff, but hey, we can compete. Hey, we aren't just guys, filling space on the ice. Do you feel the same way?
Listen. I the one thing I'm going to push back on with Matty. Now, he comes on and he says they're not a Stanley Cup contender. If they make the playoffs, they're a Stanley Cup contender. They got invited to the dance.
I'm not as much as anybody in the beginning does to an extent. Yes, I get what you're saying.
They got a puncher's chance. Now, do I believe they're going to get to the Stanley Cup Finals? Hell no. But could they screw around and win an opening series? Yeah, I would take that. I mean, this is something They got to experience that building in a playoff game, not just in a game in late April, a playoff scenario. And I think, of course, this is going to be the homerisms or whatnot, but for guys who've never experienced that, to go in, I'm sorry, the building in South Philly is kind of electric when it comes to playoff times.
Listen, I'll tell people there is something special about Flyers playoff hockey that we've known how much success they have not had winning it all since 75, 76. But when it is here, you're right. It's absolutely electric. Nooms has a really good point here, and it's kind of where I was going with it too. This infusion of youth has allowed guys like Couturier and Konechny and them to do what they do. Do you feel like this is kind of lightning in the bottle, or
no
moves to the future?
I think this is now you're seeing some of the new core in Philadelphia. The older core was, TK, Coots, Ristolainen, Sanheim. It's kind of the old core. This new core is moving in. Bump, Forrester, Martone, Barkey, York. Guys like that.
And one of the questions was the development of the young guys, like
Noah Cates too. Noah Cates.
Yeah. There was a lot of questions about these young guys coming and not living up to the hype. Big one, Matvei Michkov. A lot of people are already talking about shipping him out because he didn't do any off-season workouts, has had a fairly lackluster 25, 26 season. But he has been on fire in the last 5 games. I know it's a small sample size, but 3 games, 3 goals and 4 assists in 5 games. The pressure doesn't seem to be bothering him at all. I've said give the guy a chance. I know I'm going to get the homer. This one. I know I'm going to get the homer tag. I'll use that one for you. But can we just give the guy's coming from Russia? He's not coming from California to Philadelphia. He's not, he had to leave his family. I know the guy's had personality defects. What highly talented 17, 18-year-old wouldn't have personality defects?
Listen, he's probably feeling all kinds of things. I mean, he's in a foreign country, again, I mean, it's not making excuses, but I'm sorry. Like, I think sometimes people forget about how they were at this kid's age. They weren't out playing professional hockey. You know what I mean? But even still, like, you go into the military, right? You go into the military, you got to go wherever it is they send you. You know what I mean? So you're 18 years old, going out, and you don't think for a moment, man, you don't get homesick. The first chance you get to get home leave, what are you doing? You're running and jumping right back on a plane. Like, this kid can't do that. You know what I mean? Like, he gets 3 days off. He can't fly home to Russia. You know what I mean? So, it's going to take some getting used to. And
there's a human aspect to it. And,
right.
And that's where the homer stuff's going to start getting thrown. I'm sure we'll hear the creaks of the coffin and maybe at one point. But my thing is there is a human aspect to the Matvei Michkov situation. And maybe he is depressed. Maybe he is homesick or whatever it is that made him, maybe like kind of like AJ Brown. Let's take AJ Brown for a second. Dave said AJ's a really good guy. He's a captain and all this stuff. And I agree for the most part with that. I just think his problem is when he has any problems internally, he puts it out on blast on social media. Like we've seen a lot of people do. Just they're not our top number 1 wide receivers in our team. They're just random people in our communities. But people are going to have, I'll refer to as a personality defect that's not going to always, trend well for us. But you got to there's some things you got to deal with the good and the bad, but also give guys like Matvei a chance to develop as a human as much as a hockey player.
And you also got to realize too, this is Tockett's first year with him. You know what I mean? Like the kid had 1 year, like literally had 1 year of Tortorella. Now he's got Talk. So, and they run different systems. So, I mean, you got to just give him a chance a little bit, and have him come along. I'm not real quick to want to get rid of this guy.
I'm not. I mean, I don't even know why it's a conversation. Just because I get the reason why people would be annoyed with it, and they're saying you're getting paid a lot of money to play a sport and yada yada yada. I get that, but sometimes it's not always about money. There's a mental factor to a lot of this game. Why do you think they do like sports, like medicine and sports like therapy, and there's sports psychology? There's a reason, because there's the human factor. This was AI, or if this was machines and robots. No, this conversation would be a moot point, but it's not. They're human beings. There is all the money in the world can't make your anxiety and depression go away, all that kind of stuff. So I think people forget that. And again, I think part of the Flyers' success is exactly, Nooms, you're on fire this afternoon or this morning. Mitch Cobbs is absolutely playing more defense. Defensive lately. He is bought in. I think that's the thing. Is like, I think it's been like that's been a problem with the Torts era and into the Tocchet era a little bit, like allowing people to buy in. And I think sometimes we always say like winning cures all, even maybe a little depression, anxiety. It helps those chemicals, the dopamine in your brain start to flicker and only do the good stuff.
Oh, this is medical hour with Al Safiri.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, like, there is a scientific backing to success.
No problem, Rob.
And they're having some success, in the fact that they're going to they're probably going to go to the playoffs at this rate. I mean, I'm not saying it's guaranteed.
And guess what? Let them go, because then that's something that's going to help this team moving forward.
It's like I look at it like rewarding a young child, right? A young child who did a good job, doesn't and said, here's your little reward. I mean, I know it's kind of a silly way of putting it, but I think it's like, hey, our hard work that we put in this year, even though all the time it didn't pay off, is paying off now. And now you get a little taste of that playoffs. That could be a good thing, because now your off-season workouts are going to be hit harder. Maybe even pushes the Flyers to go, all right, maybe we're going to make moves this year we weren't planning on doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you know what? And that would be something, I think, just getting the taste is like round one. But, don't let them get past round one, because then they become a dangerous team. And I don't want to hear about nuts and bolts about this team is up here and the Flyers are right here, because how many times have we seen a team that was the number one seed not make it to the Stanley Cup final because they were knocked off? So again, like the best thing that can happen for this team is they make the postseason. I think the worst thing that can happen, I think that another good thing that can happen is that they win a round or two. If they win a round or two, now they're going to have to really kind of push their chips into the table a little bit, meaning the front office, to get some more guys here to help out. You know what I mean? Like the Flyers are going to have to go out and spend a little bit more money to try to make this, to, not make it a rebuild, but now to go chase the thing.
Sure. And listen, a team like the Flyers becomes dangerous. Now, I'm not sitting there saying, you go in there, 1 versus an 8 or, whatever it is, and they're going to go in there and just kick their ass, get my Homer badge out, all that stuff. But it does make them dangerous, because a little bit of that house money scenario. They're playing with house money, but they're also they're playing very hot lately. They're not just scoring; they're scoring a lot, which makes guys like them dangerous, and puts a little fear of God into any opponent they have.
Yeah, listen, they only need one. Like, it doesn't matter right now. They're going to be, if they want to make the postseason right now, and basically it's either the Flyers, the Capitals, or it's the Flyers, Capitals, or Blue Jackets. One of those 3 teams are going to play Pittsburgh. Okay, if the Flyers get in, they just got to beat. They got to beat Pittsburgh. I think that's realistically they can beat them. Like it's not like some outlandish thing, you know. So again, like look how close the East is. Everybody can beat anybody in the East. Like think about it. There's teams that are going home that if they were in the Western Conference, dude, they'd be like hosting playoff series that are not even going to see a team like Detroit. Detroit's eliminated. You know, it just baffles me. So yeah, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a good thing. I think our boys from Boston do us a favor today. I think they beat the Blue Jackets tonight. If they beat the Blue Jackets tonight, as I'm looking at the current standings, and I have them right here in front of me, as soon as the page opens. Yeah, if you're looking at it right now, the Flyers sit with 94. The Blue Jackets are at 92. So if they don't play Monday, they play on Tuesday. So if you're looking at it, the Flyers literally play Monday and Tuesday now. So if the Flyers beat Carolina, they're still going to be 2 up. The most they could probably do is tie them. Now that would be the worst. You would need them to lose one of these next 2 games. Columbus. Same thing with Washington would need help. They would need both Columbus and the Flyers to both lose, and they would have to win for them to take that 3rd seed.
And I said it earlier, where the coffin has creaked open. Let's see what he has to say. Special teams disaster, penalty kill 70%, power play 15%. Great story of young players. But all the magical homer dust and power positivity can change that. They're not a legit cup contender. Listen, again, I'm not sitting here betting the house on any cup or anything like that. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying that is this that turning point that we've been waiting for the Flyers organization to make since Danny Briere took over? Talking about the stories. Listen, a lot of the problems we had no legitimate stars. Are we starting to get young legitimate stars? That's my question. Are we? Let me ask you this question: is Vlad, is Vladar the real deal? Is he? Because he's a part of this story that I think, when you score 7-1, and again, power to you and Matt. You guys don't always. You always seem to. I don't think I'm fast at the team. Like a goalie when he scores 7-1, you made him your star of the game, even though there's 7 goal reasons not to. Is it a legit? Are they starting to get that legitimacy that they need to move going forward in the next years? Like again, I'm not talking about a cup this year. If it happens, that'd be amazing. And and Nooms just said it earlier. Like this is a really good, fun situation for the Flyers to be in. A little house money situation, which makes you a dangerous team. Maybe you make a run at it or something. I don't know, but be more pragmatic. But are some of these guys legit, Mike?
Yeah. I mean, I think Vladar's earned the right to come back as your number 1. For next year, he's earned that right to come back, and and I'll tell you what, Sam Emerson since the winter break has also been very good. You gotta. But I don't know as far as bringing him back. But, again, going forward, all I want is a puncher's chance in this. So, yeah, I've seen all the numbers. I see how, they definitely don't, if you were to play, these teams 9 out of 10 times, they'd probably get their butts whooped 9 out of 10 times. But to say that they don't have a chance once you enter the tournament, I mean, I've seen weirder things happen in hockey. I've seen a team that had over 100 points get sent home by an 8th seed, in the postseason. So it's not like it can't happen. Will it happen? I doubt it. I would be proud of these. I'd be even more proud of these guys if they get in. If they knock Pittsburgh out and they move on to the next round. You get a couple more hockey games. That's the whole key. That's the whole key. If I'm coaching this team, come on, guys, couple more home games.
Yeah.
Just keep doing it that way.
Yeah, like in one game at a time type situation. And Maddie, yeah, it's been a great story. And I'm not saying the work is far from done, but all my real question is, has this team started to turn a corner in the right way? Has the team, are we getting pieces that maybe we didn't know were there, that are going to be those major building blocks that allows Danny Briere to sit there and go, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to have the money off the books. We're going to have this money. We're going to have that time. We're going to be able to do this. We're going to draft this way. But because let's be honest, some of the draft picks, the big names, Mitch Kov up until lately was kind of starting to feel that way. They haven't, they have guys who don't want to be here. You know what I mean? And was that because, he was just being a spoiled brat or was the Flyers in the wrong that way? We'll never know until the 30 for 30 comes out in 30 years about it, But, that's there is, there's something to be said about this team. Noom says, not a fan of cherry picking numbers, but we have to look at this team post Martone and Forrester, given how much it changes the equation. Special teams could be absolutely unravel in this team in the playoffs, but it's more a matter of consistency now opposed to just sucking. Yeah, I guess that's true. That's not a bad point.
Yeah.
Like, a little bit of a different team. It's not the same team the season started with. Since the Olympic break, the PK's been 64%, and the power play's been 11%. Young players are great. They need legit talent to be more than puncher's chance. I think I'm not going to something we say often on this show, Mike Laurel. Maybe you can disagree with me, but I think we're all in the same boat as that comment with Matty B. They are better. The youth is infusing them, but they are not a complete team, which I guess gives you some hope to the future, being that Homer needing that Homer justice.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to look at it like from the better standpoint. No, when I put my mortgage and when I put my house up for this to say, yeah, they're going to win the Stanley Cup, I wouldn't say no, I wouldn't do that. But, they got a chance. They got a chance as long as they get in. Hey, listen, you got to believe that your team has a chance, because if not, going into watching those games, you're like, they're just going to get killed, But, hey, they made it. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I think they got more than a puncher's chance, especially playing Pittsburgh. Because to me, like I said, if you look at the whole Eastern Conference right now, they've been beating each other up all year.
Yeah. No, it's definitely been a back and forth situation with which makes you give you a little bit more. They're better more than a puncher's chance, but at the same time, do they have that? Do they need that Homer fairy dust to get over the hump? We'll find out.
All right, man. We got to segue. We got to talk about the other team in town. Those fighting Phils, huh?
Listen, I don't buy in typically normally to the first 13 to 15 games. Like, does that tell you? I mean, listen, we've seen a million times teams come out sluggish and turn it around, and by the end of April, we've seen teams like the Pirates come out and look like a great team, and then just
they're in first place. It's their annual first place. Before they take their swan dive.
Yeah, and reality sets in and all that stuff. But you can't deny the fact that the Phillies have allowed the things that made people feel negative, feel down about them over the last few years, but especially over the last year. And the organization itself, it's rearing its ugly head.
Oh yeah, it's playing out right in front of us. If you were a guy that was looking at it, that's step one right there. Right there, what Noom said. That's step one. That kid.
And then step two would be putting Schwarber in the 4-hole. I'm gonna say that until it magically happens. I'm going to will it into existence. I mean, listen. Let me ask you a question, Nooms. You can answer this too, and anybody else in the chat. Like, what would be more important to you, Crawford in the leadoff or Schwarber in the 4-hole? Like
Crawford at the leadoff.
Yeah,
that's the most important thing. That kid's got to lead off. he is a tone setter. Like, you know, if he gets on base, okay, if he walks, you know he's running. So now you're going to have a runner in scoring position. My thing is, can the guys behind him get off their derriere and drive them in? Like, that's what's not happening right now. Like, Turner.
And it's funny because, like, the one thing, like, Bryce Harper is usually one of the bigger problems getting going in this part. He's actually hitting. Turner's been very wishy-washy. Schwarber has his home run or nothing moments right now. You know, it's you're right. You're not, you know, this is why people are not on, you know, riding and dying with this team.
Exactly. And you're getting nothing really out of Bohm, Stott, Real Muto. You're not getting nothing out of those three. So you basically, and Garcia, you want to take the bottom four, Garcia, like you're basically getting stuff. You're not getting stuff out of, if you're looking at it right now, Harper's starting to just turn around. You know, but if you're looking at it, Al, like there's really three guys in the lineup that are really kind of hitting. You have Crawford, who's hitting, Marsh, who's hitting, and you're having a so-so Trey Turner. Other than that, nobody else in this lineup is hitting at all. Like Harper's starting to get a little warm.
Well, you know, it's even get warm. I mean, in so far into, like, I guess up to yesterday, it was, you know, he's had 3 home runs, 7 RBIs, only 4 strikeouts, walked 6 times. I mean, you're getting what you want from Bryce Harper. I think he's batting a 3. I think just in April he's batting a 344 because he didn't have a great March start. So I think April, I'm looking at it by month, it's 344 or something right now. So just so far into April now, only 12 days. Don't get me wrong. But, I mean, he is definitely – and it's become squandered because you got a guy who's doing it right now, but the guys around him aren't doing it, you know, and that's the problem. And usually when Harper gets going, these guys get going. So, you know, I really think, kind of like we were just talking about the Flyers, like the infusion of the youth, and Nooms is sitting here, dude, saying dude should have been up here last year. Not much has changed with his maturity, swing path, hands, etc. It pisses me off, and that's what I think pisses people off. You know, is that they have a chance to bring these guys up a little earlier, and I really feel like they were going to do that with Aiden Miller this year. I really thought that was probably like them going to buck the trend until his back his back injury became an issue. That's also another thing. So that's what I think frustrates me more than just the players on this team, is this organization is really starting to become frustrating. And I'm not usually one, and I know I'm going to awake Mike Papernick or something when I make this comment here, but you know, is Tomper's seat extraordinarily warm at this time?
Warm. My man's got a 7-alarm fire under his ass. Like, and
how long does it
take
the Phillies to pull the trigger if this continues? That's my next question.
He might be gone before Memorial Day, dude. Like, to be honest with you, like Girardi stuck around till like what, June? Like, I don't think Topper gets that long. I really don't. If they keep going the path that they're going, there's no way that the management can sit there and just allow this to keep going. There's no way.
I mean, listen, we all said it. I said it. When they brought in Mattingly, we all knew that was like break in case of emergency if this doesn't go well, and we have another, another problem we have to worry about. We need to break the glass and bring somebody else in. Are they trying to recreate 2022? Sort of, but you know.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I will say this: Mattingly's a baseball guy. Like, so, you know, I don't think he'll use analytics as much as Thompson does. But Thompson, like, some of the things he does, man, you just scratch your head. It's like he doesn't have a baseball feel. And the guy's been around the game forever.
I don't know if he doesn't have a baseball feel. It kind of goes with what Maddie's saying here, and I'll say this, and I'll read this in a second for those who are just listening. I don't know if he's willing to. We always say that a manager's a player's manager or not. You know, if these guys are going to be hard on the team or he's going to love them up or something like that. Like, I think he's becoming a doormat, to be honest with you, and it's becoming obvious. And I think that's why the team. They were the rumors that they want more of a guy who played the game at a higher level and blah blah blah, and that's why Don Mattingly was going to be the guy and all this stuff. I just think like even if you as a player your coach is really good to you and kind of lets you do what you want, and you're like sooner or later when the results are the problem, even you don't want that as a player. And what Matt's saying here is Crawford leading off will push Schwarber to the 4. That's why Crawford will not lead off with Thompson here. He can't bring himself to move Schwarber to the middle. And why? Like, please, is it Kyle? Is it him? Is it what Kyle wants and him unwilling to say, Kyle, you're going to the 4 hole? Is it analytics? What is the reason? And if it is Kyle Schwarber, and I love Kyle Schwarber, I'm a big Kyle Schwarber fan, and I told you I had my reasons maybe not to want him here this season. And big reason was plugging up that DH, Mike. And the age too. Can this continue for 5 years at $30 million a year? But it's not even just like that. Like if it's Kyle, then this is where Thompson needs to go. Kyle, this is what's best for the team, not you. And if he's unwilling to do that, then it's fire Thompson. And if it's the other way around, if it's the analytics and he's following the analytics to a T, it needs to be fire Thompson. Like that's the problem. Like I hate saying that about a guy who, one of the fastest Phillies managers with 350 wins, and he has some clout, except for what's the most important is the hardware. And it just feels like the team keeps moving backwards. And a little of me, I said this in the beginning before the season started. A little bit of me is this was kind of I don't want to say a throwaway year for the Phillies as an organization, but like we're going to do a little tweaking around the edges, Mike, but we're not pushing our chips in this season. Like we're just going to wait and see, and these contracts kind of fizzle out, plus a looming lockout for next season. It's just kind of how I have a feel for the Phillies as an organization.
Well, my overall view of this team is the pitching has gotten better. All except for Loaiza. I'm sorry. I'm going to disagree with Maddie. Loaiza has not looked good at all this year. Him and Taiwan Walker have not looked good. Now, I'll give Taiwan credit. Yesterday, kind of had one bad inning settled down.
Broken clock can be right twice a day. That's all I'm going to say on the Taiwan Walker situation. And that's Dombrowski hooking themselves into a really bad contract. In baseball, that's the problem that sucks about him. You're in these contracts, and if the guy ends up being really bad, you can't trade him. It's untradeable. I mean, he's untradeable.
Right. I mean, if you take a look at it, like I don't know, it just Luzardo's got to get right. I like what I saw from Painter. I disagree with this. With him saying the Phillies are going to be 3rd or 4th place. I mean, you see the rest of the teams in the division? It's not like Atlanta's running away with it. The Mets are god-awful. The Marlins
is limping out. The East is limping out of the gates right now. It's not there's no clear, trajectory, which is good for the Phillies right now because, what are they at 500 right now? It's good for the Phillies that, that if they can get their proverbial heads out of their asses, then they'll be okay. But if they it's not like what was it 23 when 22 and 23 when the Mets and the Braves were just kind of running away with it for a while,
right?
Towards up until the end, until the Mets started metsing things up, that the Phillies were always kind of like playing catch up and got hot at the right time, because it's always been the opposite. The Phillies have been hot now, but then they get cold at the wrong time. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just, and the coldness seems to come earlier and earlier every offseason. And this is where, again, I hate Dana, but it falls on Tomper a little bit. The turning the bullpen upside down when it comes to the playoffs. Like, it was working for 162 games, and now suddenly we're going to go backwards on it. You know what I mean? Like, just certain moves, like, where the numbers, if you read them from a pure number standpoint, you're like, why? Like, if you're looking at him from far away, like Rob Thompson, any other team's going to be going, like, why would you want to get rid of this guy? Like, but it's the under the microscope look and some of the head scratching moves that he makes at the wrongest of wrong times.
Yeah, I mean, this is just, I don't know. I was kind of looking at something for our boy Mikey Papernick over there. I just wanted to let him know, since he wants to bring up that the Braves are in first place. The Braves are 9-6. They are literally a game and a half up on the Phillies right now. A game and a half.
Would they play one more game than the Phillies, or no?
They played 15. One more game.
One more.
So, like, I'm laughing. Like, the whole division, you can literally, if somebody has a good week, you can be a few games up in the division. Literally, it's 9 wins for Atlanta, 8 wins for the Marlins. The Marlins are 8-7. The Phillies are 7-7. The Mets are 7-8. Washington 6-8. No,
yeah. And what
Nooms running away with this one.
Yeah, and what Nooms is saying here is something I've been feeling as well for a very long time in baseball. Like, media analytics is helpful about getting things a step better, but to a ceiling. It's not like your team's like the team's like, a step or two away from being a champion, and analytics is going to put them over the top. They will help you move up from middle to above maybe a little bit, but analytics will not put you on top. Because, for instance, analytics might tell you that, this guy's hitting really well. You should move him from the 8-hole to the 3-hole. And you're going to be like, but a manager needs to be able to look at it and go, if I move this guy to the 8-hole to the 3-hole, his bat is not going to continue at that. The 7-8 hole, maybe 6 at most, is where he's going to thrive. If I do that, he's going to drop off and be bad again. And then there has to be a feel. You have to know your team. You got to be able to tell yourself, give guys chances, don't get me wrong, but you got to be able to say, no, Bryson Stott's not a 5-hole guy. It's just not going to work that way, even if he's hitting well. Like, Brandon Marsh has been hitting well and be one of our most consistent hitters next to him and Crawford. But I'm not advocating for him to put him in the 4-hole. You know what I mean? Or the 5-hole. He's thriving where he's at, and that's the way it should be. And maybe if he does really well, you move him from 6 to 5, and if he's doing really well, but it's probably gonna be around the 6 or 7 mark, for him.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I just going over looking over at everybody's record right now. And really, there's only one dominant team, and that's the world champs. Dodgers, man. Dodgers are off on a really, really good streak.
But they've only lost 2 games so far.
Yeah, 11-3. They're 11-3.
3 games. Yeah.
So, but everybody else is right in kind of in the mix of things here. So, yeah, besides, to me, it's a little too early for me to start worrying about who's in first, as long as we're not that far out. And being a game and a half out with the way the Phillies have looked now, I would take that as count your blessings. You know what I mean? Because this team has shown the ability to get hot. Like, no matter how they're built, this team shows that they can lose a bunch of games and that they can come back and win a bunch of games. So all I can say is keep your tray, keep your hands and feet inside the cart at all times, because this ride's going to be a little bumpy.
Yeah, and Alvin's saying he feels that the Phillies are the best / most rounded team in the NL East. And that's great and wonderful. And maybe from like a nuts and bolts situation it is, I really am starting to fall in the management. Like, nobody's willing to shake anything up, and I feel like that's kind of the big problem. So based on the no lefty relievers on the D-backs, we are locked in with Marsh at cleanup. End of story. That's the definition of a manager who is not concerned about the feel of baseball. I'm not going to disagree with him. I don't know, maybe you'll want to push back, Mike, but I'm not going to disagree with him. Like, I'm not sitting there there's no lefties, and I get that. That's just kind of like a grain of sand on the beach at this moment, but it's one of the many examples of the maddeningness of Rob Thompson's maneuvers.
Okay, I'm going to push back on this because
who
else are you going to put at number 4? Like, seriously, Brandon Morse got that. He's got the best. He's got one of the best averages. I mean, right now it's actually dipped down. He was around 275. Now it's around 250. But he's one of the guys that's making solid contact with the ball. So I'm sorry, you don't want to put Bohm there. You don't want to put Stott there. The only two guys that are left in that who are going to go there are either going to be Real Muto or Garcia, because they're not going to put Schwarber there. So again, they're not going to put Schwarber there. I don't know why they wouldn't put Schwarber there, but they're not going to. So let me ask you a question. How long do you stick with Turner batting leadoff when it should be Justin Crawford batting leadoff? It should be Crawford, Turner. And I'm not even really kind of pushing for Turner, to be honest with you. I think they need to drop him in the lineup because he's so up and down. It's crazy.
Yeah, but when he gets consistent, for the most part, he's been fairly consistent outside of being injured over the last couple of years. He's fine in the 2-hole in my eyes. Where are you going to put him at? 4, 5? I mean, 5, 6 now. I mean, who are you going to put up there? It should be Crawford, Turner. Now you got two pairs of legs in there who can really burn around the bases. Harper is also not a slouch, and Schwarber should be cleaning those guys up. Like, it's just the way it's. Why are we reinventing baseball at this point? Like, that's my thing. And Nooms is saying poor Embiid. How we got into that? I worry about JoJo making it past 55. Like, did I miss something?
I know he was out.
I know he was out, but like, is there like some ailment that I'm unaware of? Like, I don't know what it means to get past 55.
I think Matty was trying to scream.
Yeah, right. Schwarber, Kyle, number 12.
Number 12.
56.
Yeah, and how many of them came from the number 4 spot, Matt? How many of them? Like,
how many more RBIs would he have if he hit from the 4 spot? Instead of the lead off at one point. Garcia can bat 4th. I mean, home run hitters hit around 220 to 250, and I'm not. I'd rather have him at 5, maybe. Like, honestly, in my if not looking the lefty righty scenario, it'd be Crawford, Turner, Harper, Schwarber, him at number 5 right now, unless somebody gets really hot. Marsh, but if he continues where he's at, Bohm, JT.
Again, like, who are you going to put up there to bat behind whoever number 4 is? Whoever number 4 is, who are you putting behind there? Because none of those guys are not going to cover the ball.
I said Garcia because he at least has he's like the Sloman. He's like the Sloman shield on the front lawn of the person who actually doesn't have a security system. He's just there to scare people enough. He at least has the potential, so people are not going to just simply just throw meatballs down, not afraid of him. Like, you put Bohm there, he's a double play machine. I mean, listen, I know I'm a little harsh on him at times, and he has over the last years has been a really good RBI generator and all that stuff at times. But he's also hit more double plays than anybody else on this team. And that's why I don't want him in the 5-hole. I would prefer him, or 4-hole, especially the 4-hole, probably even the 5-hole. I would prefer him in the 6-hole.
I have no confidence seeing that dude walk up to the plate. I have no confidence in that dude. None. Yeah. Like, I have more confidence.
The Phillies are starting to annoy me when me and Michael Papernick are kind of on the same page a lot. Like, it's not a good Sunday morning at that point. Just kidding, Mike. Love you.
I know. And he's right there with that too. Like, the $330 million man got to start producing too.
And he is, like, again, it's only 12 days in April for overall, but I'm not popping the cork on the champagne at this point, and it's being wasted every other which way.
Yeah. All right, listen, we can go round and round about this all day, but I got to know, what is Al Safiri eating today? What's your meal of the day, buddy?
I'm actually going to be going out to dinner tonight. Tonight, I'm taking the boys and the wife, my father-in-law, to go see the new Mario movie. I'm still a kid at heart, grew up on Mario, so I'm actually kind of excited to see it.
You gonna put the overalls on? You gonna put the overalls on?
Nah, I'm not gonna put the overalls on. But the first one from these kids' movies are very based for adults to enjoy the laugh. They know the kids are gonna like it because of the colors and the things around. But a little bit of the nostalgia for us guys who grew up playing Mario Brothers I still play them. Like, if a new Mario game comes out, I'll still buy it and play it. I'm hooked on Mario for years. I still play it. I have a little handheld gaming system I keep next to the bed at night. If I can't sleep at night, I pull out 9 times out of 10. I'm going to go for Mario or one of the old Nintendo systems. So yeah, I'm a little excited to see that. So we're gonna head out to the movies and then afterwards have dinner. So I get like a matinee in and go get dinner afterwards. So that's the old game plan from the Zafiri household.
I don't know. The wife hasn't decided what she wants to cook today. So I don't
Tell her
know.
steak. It's a nice day to throw it out on the grill.
I don't have a grill. My grill, I gotta get a new one. So I don't know. Maybe we can go look for a grill. That sounds
go. You're close to a Home Depot. Walk down the street.
I am. I'm thinking about it. I gotta go get my 2 new. These hats are my new era hats, the ones I showed you. Now I gotta go get my MLB shop hats. They're up at a friend of mine. So
yeah.
I'm gonna.
Hey, we're gonna get something funny. So I bought these new hat cases, Matt or Mike. I'm gonna send you the link for them. You're gonna love them. They're these plastic square boxes, right? Clear plastic, except for the white tray on the bottom, right? Holds about 12 to 15 hats, depending on how big your hats are, fitted and not fitted and all that stuff. And you can line them up in a row, and the tray pulls out, so you can go, okay, I want this one, and it slides back in, and the cover comes down and magnetically sticks to the clothes. So I leave them in my closet. I got 4 of them. This is how many hats I have. I got 4 of them lined up, and I still need another one. And it keeps them from getting dusty and all that stuff. My hat collection, and I got rid of like about 7 or 8 hats.
Yeah, I got to recycle because I got some hats I got to get rid of, man, that I've had.
What I do is I pass them down to the boys. I'm like, here you go. Like, the fitted hats aren't going to fit them, but like the snapback, my 10-year-old has a big noggin, so he can it's not too big on him. But that's I got to send you a link for it because it's a game changer.
Oh, all right, yeah, definitely do that.
Jalapeno, pepperoni, and sausage pizza. God bless you and your plumbing this Sunday afternoon there, Mike. That sounds amazing. I'm all about that, but it's. I hope you bring your antacids with you, my brother.
Oh my God! If I were to eat that, dude, Jamie would make me sleep outside. If she knew I was eating that, she'd be like, "Just get out."
Oh, that's funny. That's funny.
All right, Al. So I think we've had a
Sunday morning with you, Mike. As always, thank you for David Neese for joining us today. Great guy. I mean, literally, I got to know the guy from working at, running EOP for many years. He is legit. He knows what he's talking about, and when he talks about something, he put the effort, the work in. He used to scout. He used to cover college ball. It's not like he's just a guy who does it just to do it. He follow him, read him, watch him. Yes. He just said it. Fire up Al Smoker. It is already. Nooms, you'll get a big. This is Al at his finest. So last Sunday was spring clean the smoker. I got this thing looking brand new. It's ready to roll. Next weekend, I'm looking to get a little brisket going or ribs. So, Mike, I'm going to keep you in mind. I'll let you know.
All right, cool.
All right, guys. So, other than that, he's Mike Laro.
Bye.
I'm Big Al. And on tap today, of course, you have Matty B to bring you in the rest of this Arizona rubber match game. And, of course, Sunday's mean, Mike.
That's it.
Down on the farm.
That's right. Yeah, you get to see Matty B. Yes, you get to see Matty B in his overalls. It's great.
Yes.
Milking cows.
Oh, we should make him do that for it. Down. I'm gonna mock that up. I'm done. It's gonna happen. There it is. You're in trouble, Matty B. And that is.
That's it.
That's it. That's the rest of the day, and that's this week. Here's next week. So you got 2 more Flyers games for the regular season, and then we go from there.
Yeah, man. I'll tell you what. If great
and
game.
Mike brings it home, by the way.
Yes, they are home, and so am I. So I will be carrying you guys through while you guys you and Maddie do the Cubs series for the Fightins final. But I will say this. Damn, I had a thought that's gone now. Oh well, it's old age.
Is that what I smell?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mike. As always, yeah, get that acid reflux pill ready. Lacking digestive enzymes. Yes, he's absolutely correct. My wife was taking reflux medicine a while. She started enzymes, and no more needed the reflux meds. I'll give you something, Nooms and Mike. as we get older, it's something papaya tablets. It's natural, like acid reflux, but it's also good to take. It keeps you from getting helps replace those enzymes. So, and they're cheap, and you can get like 1,000 pill bottle for like $10 on Amazon. Papaya pills. So check them out. Great show. Thanks, Elvin. As I said earlier, he's Mike. I'm Al. It's Sunday. Enjoy the rest of your day. Go Phils. And we will see you next time.